Hello there, Monstars. Welcome to our next flip video, and in this flip video we're going to be talking about equivalent fractions. Now if you look at this word equivalent, it sounds a lot like the word equal, and equivalent fractions are two fractions that are equal to one another. And these are fractions that have the same value, but they look differently because they have a different denominator or numerator. So for example, if I had two pizzas and on my pizza here, there was half the pizza left, so that would be 1/2. And then on my pizza to the right, there was 2/4 of the pizza left. So both of these pizzas have the same value. There's the same amount left, but they're split into different pieces and their fraction looks different. So let's explore what that looks like a little deeper. Okay, our first strategy that we want to look at is our strategy of drawing a picture. Let me put that over here. This is a strategy we were working with when comparing fractions. So if I told you that 1/2 was equal to 3/6, and I asked you to draw a picture to prove that that's true, what I would ask you to do is draw two fraction strips. So I'm going to ask you to do that on your paper. Pause the video if you need more time. Remember, it's important that our fraction strips are the same length. One can't be longer than the other. Okay, so for 1/2, I'm going to use this red fraction strip. And remember, I always use half of the fraction strip as a benchmark to help me make my pieces equal. Well, this comes in really handy because when I use that halfway benchmark, I've got two equal pieces, and each part stands for 1 out of 2. And I have to represent the fraction 1/2, so how many pieces am I going to color? You're right, I'm going to color in one, I'm going to shade in one piece. And this shows 1/2 of the fraction strip. Now I need to show 3/6 of the fraction strip. So again, I'm going to find my halfway point, my benchmark, to help me make sure my pieces are straight. And I need to think, okay, 6, what's half of 6? 3. So on this half of my fraction strip, I need to have 3 equal pieces. And I need to have 3 equal pieces on this half of my fraction strip to equal a total of 6. So my 3 equal pieces might look something like this on each side. And I'm going to count them real quick just to make sure I didn't draw too many. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each part is 1 out of 6 pieces, 1/6. And to represent my fraction of 3/6, how many parts do I need to shade in? You're right, we need to shade in 3. You can do that on your paper as well. So when I extend my line all the way through both fractional strips, I can see that I've shaded in the same amount, the same value. And that is why 1/2 equals 3/6, because I have the same value even though I have a different denominator and I'm working with two fractional strips. These two fractions equal one another. Okay, now let's use logical reasoning when determining equivalent fractions for 1/2. Now you may have noticed that when a denominator is even, for example, fourths, half of the fourths is half of the denominator. So let's think, what's half of 4? 4 divided into half, 4 divided by 2. You're right, the answer is 2/4. So without drawing a picture, we can use logical reasoning as a tool to help us determine equivalent fractions. Now to have half of a number, to divide it by 2, we have to be dealing with even numbers. So if you're going to have an equivalent fraction that equals 1/2, your denominator must be even. So let's think of all of the even numbers between 2 and 10. Let's write those down as denominators. So we've already used 2 as a denominator, 4 as a denominator. What comes after 4 if we're dealing with even numbers? You're right, 6. And then we have 8. And then we have 10. Okay? So I want you to pause the video. I want you to see if you can determine what the numerator would be in each of these fractions if we were making them equal, all of them equal to 1/2. So pause the video, push play when you think you got it, and let's go over the results. Okay, so in our first fraction, we have a missing numerator here, but the denominator is 6, and I need it to equal 1/2. So we're going to ask ourselves, what's half of 6? 6 divided by 2. You're right, the answer is 3. So 1/2 and 3/6 equals each other. What's half of 8? 8 divided by 2. What number times 2 equals 8? You're right, the answer is 4. So 4/8 is going to equal 1/2 because 4 is half of 8. On your 10, half of 10 is 5. So once again, 5/10 is going to equal 1/2 because 5 is half of 10. So that's a strategy you can use to help you determine equivalent fractions a little bit quicker. You're going to want to use this strategy if you have a really strong grasp of multiplication and division. I'm going to show you another strategy now that may help you if you're stumped. Okay, this is one of my favorite strategies. This is butterfly trick. This is a strategy that you'll even use as you move through school in the upper grades. And it helps you, if you're stumped, determine what the missing numerator is or help you determine an equivalent fraction. I started with 1/2 here, but we're going to move into some fractions that are not 1/2 in just a second. So for butterfly trick, you're going to use your tools of multiplication. Okay, and this is review because we talked about this in class on Wednesday. So the first step is to draw your first set of wings, and we're dealing with what two numbers right here? Yes, the 1 and the 6. So when we take 1 times 6, our answer is what? I didn't hear you. Oh, yes, you're right. It's 6. I'm going to write my 6 up above so I remember. And then, I have a missing part. Now I have 2 times blank. What is that supposed to equal if they are equal fractions, equivalent fractions? You're right, it's supposed to equal 6. So what number can go in the blank to give us an answer of 6? 2 times what equals 6? You are correct. 2 times 3 equals 6. So I know that this has to equal 6, but I don't know my missing numerator. I just discovered it. My missing numerator was 3. So my fraction, what I found is 1/2 equals 3/6. And remember, we can always check our work by drawing a picture. I'll draw my fraction strips. My first fraction was 1/2, so 1 out of 2 parts. I'll shade that in. And my second fraction was 3/6. So I need to make 6 equal parts and shade in 3 out of 6 to make sure that when I extend my line, I have shaded the equal parts. I've shaded the equal amount. Okay, friends, so on this slide, I'm going to ask you to see if you can determine the missing numerator in each problem. So we have 2 problems here, one in white, one in green. This says 3/4 equals some eighths. We don't know how many eighths make this equal. And the bottom one, the green one, says 2/3 equals some ninths. We don't know how many, so we've got to use it. We got to determine the answer. I'm going to let you decide if you want to do butterfly trick, logical reasoning, or draw a picture. But I want you to pause the video. I want you to try to solve and find the missing numerators to make this equation true. And then push play when you're ready, and we're going to go over it. Okay, for the top problem, I'm going to use the butterfly trick. So I'm going to take 3 times 8, and that's going to give me an answer of what? You're right, of 24. So now I know that for this wing of the butterfly, it needs to equal 24. So 4 times what number equals 24? You're right, the answer is 6. Okay, now I'm going to check that over here by drawing a picture, just to make sure that I've done it correctly. So in my first fraction, I have 1/4, so I use my halfway benchmark. Each of these equals 4, so I'm looking for 3/4. So I'll shade that in for 3/4. Then my next fraction should be 1/8, 6/8. Well, what's half of 8? It's 4. So I need 4 equal pieces on this side. And 4 on this side. And I'm going to count and shade in 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when I extend my line, I see that 3/4 equals 6/8. So it's always good to double check yourself just to make certain that you've done this correctly. So let's look at our green equation down here. We have 2/3 equals some ninths. We're not sure. So first, I'm going to work with the 2 numbers that are present. Don't start with your missing numbers. That would be confusing. We have 2 times 9, which equals 18. So 2 times 9 equals 18. And now, on my second butterfly wing, I know that the answer must be 18. And I have one of my factors of 3. So 3 times what equals 18? What's the missing factor? You're right, it's 6. So 2/3 equals 6/9. I'm not going to draw a picture to check this one, but I always can just to be certain that I've done it correctly. All right, here's our final slide. I'm not going to end with a joke today. I'm going to end with 3 problems. In our first problem, we have 1/3 equals some 6th. We don't know. You'll notice that every problem you're dealing with 1/3. So I want you to determine the answers for each of these equations. And I want you to bring that in with you on Friday, and we're going to go over it in further detail and check our work. So I want you to have a good night, and I will see you on Friday.